For men, it's a lot of them just feel invisible. Nobody pays attention to them. Nobody wants to go out with them. Nobody even checks in on them and makes sure that they're okay. I think about half the male population feels like that. And if you look at stats, yeah, it's at least a half to a third. That really feel invisible.
I am very, very thrilled and very excited to have our next guest on. We have been saying for 2 seasons now that we are dying to have a man on here and have a man's voice and have a man's perspective to help us, have some more understanding. I think there's a lot of confusion for women, especially in dating, with what's happening on the other side. So I want to share quickly how we connected because I think it was really great. You had commented on one of our posts, and I think it was the intimidation post, which I want to talk about today too. But it was you just wrote something like, "What if you're curious? If you want to know, just ask." And I was like, "Yes, we want to know. Like, come on the podcast." And that's literally how we connected. I was so excited to see that message. I jumped on it right away, and so here we are. So welcome and thank you for being here. I want to have you, before we jump in, I have literally in front of me a list of questions I think our audience wants to know and is dying to know. But if you could share a little bit about yourself, your work, how you came to your work, that would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah. I just also want to say too, I love your reaction to my comment because, sometimes it's easy on social media to have like a negative reaction. I was expecting to get a bunch of angry comments, or angry replies to mine. So I was waiting for that, but you responded with compassion. And I love that. And that's why we're talking right now. So, for anyone who doesn't know who I am, my name's Lloyd. I run a dating coaching business for guys. Specifically, I coach guys anywhere from 25 to like 50. And basically, I help them get into relationships, help them get more confident, help them get dates with women that they actually want. That's kind of what I do. And I've been doing that for 5 years. I have a pretty large audience of about 250,000 people. And yeah.
So I'm always curious and interested to know how people came to their work because a lot of people and guests, and myself included that I've had on, have come to this sort of not knowing that this would be the work they end up doing, whether or through their own personal journey. Like I'm doing this podcast because a lot of the things that I've talked about, I have lived. So I'm curious just to know how you started your business and your coaching.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, when I was first getting into this, like I was kind of a shy, nervous person, and I felt much more comfortable. I majored in physics when I was in school. I played sports, and so I felt comfortable in those areas. And I felt like I was a relatively successful guy in other aspects of life. But when it came to like talking to women and socializing, I was just not, I was not very good at it. And so, I went on this journey where as a guy who thought about things very practically and logically, when you're dealing with social situations, especially dealing with, dating, it's an emotional thing. And it's something that like when you ask people who like do really well in that area, maybe they do well with women, you ask them, they're just like, oh, just be yourself or just be this. And I'm like, okay, I feel like I am just being myself though, like, it's not really working, So like when I got advice like that, like that's when I started to turn to other things. And I found that the resources online were just, I felt like they weren't very good, and they made me do some things that I felt was making me worse. And then I kind of found my own path and, there wasn't a lot of great resources at that time. I think there's a lot better resources now. But at that time, I really wanted to create something that was like a more like, full package for guys. Cause at the time it was really just, like pickup artists that were teaching this stuff. And so I wanted to be, make something better.
And that's so relevant and so interesting because a lot of conversations I've had offline, and you're the third man that we've had on this, one being John Berger, who is an author. Second, we had our amazing camera guy come in front of the camera and share his story. And so you're our third. So we're so excited to have you on here. But off camera, I've been having conversations with a lot of men, and they have shared, I think one of the frustrations for women is that women, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of women like will read the self-help books, will go to therapy, I think there's more resources being sought after. But I've had conversations with men where like, no, we want to do that too. We just don't have the resources. So it sounds like you're filling the gap, one, and two, that there are men obviously seeking out the resources. So that's encouraging to hear.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and there's more and more every single year, otherwise I wouldn't have a growing business. So, yeah, I definitely think that there's a strong need for this on both ends for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's helpful for women to hear that you have a strong business for a reason because there are men that are seeking these resources. So tell me, I guess, I hear a lot from women. Tell me what you're hearing from men in terms of their own frustrations with dating or their own frustrations with women or how women are showing up in dating.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, I get a couple things. I get the guys who, they don't get any luck with women. Women don't really pay attention to them. I think a frustration that women tend to have is maybe they will get um, they'll get attention from a lot of guys they don't want, or unnecessary attention. That's a frustration in their life. For men, it's a lot of them just feel invisible. Nobody pays attention to them. Nobody wants to go out with them. Nobody even checks in on them and makes sure that they're okay. I think about half the male population feels like that. And if you look at stats, yeah, it's at least a half to a third. That really feel invisible. So basically, the way I handle those situations for those guys is okay, well, let's get you to not feel so invisible. Let's get you out there. As a guy, you have to either put yourself out there. And for women, sometimes it's, oh, I just go on the dating apps. Well, for most men, they're not getting any matches on dating apps. Half of all men get zero matches.
Really?
Yes. So for them, putting themselves out there is going to require actually getting out into the real world, making friends, sometimes approaching women that they don't know, and like starting conversations with them. So it's a lot. Okay, so that's one section for people that are, they feel invisible. Maybe they have very little experience with women, or sometimes no experience with women, haven't even held a girl's hand. Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm dealing with. And so like that's half of my clients. And the other half are guys who, they can get dates. They're just not getting dates with the women that they want, or like the women that they are actually attracted to, or the women that they're attracting are just not great fits for them. Either they're not into them, or maybe they're giving them problems or whatever. And they tend to get the same problems that the guys in the other half get with all women, they get with, certain kinds. So that's the two types of guys that I deal with. And it really comes down to them. So for the second group, it's they go on dates, but then they get ghosted. And a lot of times the woman will say stuff like, oh, I just didn't feel the spark. I didn't feel the connection. And they go on tons and tons of dates. And it's like they either get ghosted. The woman says they don't feel a connection. And a lot of times they'll come back from the date and they felt like they went really well, and they just have no explanation, or they feel very lost and confused, and yeah, just generally a general sense of like not feeling wanted for sure, but not as bad as the first group.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God, it's so fascinating already because I think that women don't have that understanding or that lens that men, one, feel invisible, or two, think a date goes well and is it even affected by being ghosted or even like thinks about it. I think there's so much misunderstanding happening on both sides that this is really fascinating to hear. For the men that feel invisible, which is really interesting to hear too, because I do think it is a thing that women, again, not to generalize, will overlook a lot of really quality, decent men. For the ones that feel invisible, like what do you suggest to them? Like, how do you work with them? I imagine, is some confidence building, but what things do you sort of coach them on?
Sure, there's a couple things. So like let's say, in business, if you want people to buy your product, like you can have a great product, but if there's zero marketing towards it, how many people are going to buy it? Nobody, right? So you want to get your marketing up for yourself. Your product is you. So you want to market yourself to people. Get yourself out there a little bit. Now, the other thing too is that like, you know, you can have great marketing, but if your product sucks, people will buy it. They're just only going to use it once. So you want to make sure you have a good product as well too. Um, so like that's the two things that I work on is that I make sure that they can present themselves well. Sometimes they we got to like get their fashion up. Usually people don't reach out to me if they're like they like if they're morbidly obese or something like that. I don't get any guys who reach out to me that are like that. I think they generally reach out to me when they've done that work ahead of time. They've worked on themselves a bit, and then they're like, okay, I'm ready to date, but like don't know what to do. Like I'm not confident. I don't know what to say, and so I help those guys out that way. I tell them like give them a few things to say. Not that they're like coming up with like canned lines, but I'm actually not against that if that's what you need to start a conversation with somebody. As long as it evolves into something, organic, then that's fine. But I generally help them out after that point. So once they come to me, if they're feeling invisible, then they need to learn those skills about how to approach and talk to people, how to start making friends, create a schedule for themselves that's actually going to meet the kinds of people that they want to meet. And yeah, from there, it's, we just work on a case by case basis.
Yeah, I imagine it's like I think in any sort of helping profession, it's so personalized, right? You have to like tailor it to the person that you're working with. I love what you said about, especially this population that feels invisible, or it's really interesting to hear sort of some of the stats for men on dating apps, like not getting any matches and this idea of like getting out into the real world. Um, and I encourage my clients to do that too. I think I don't know. I guess I'm curious, like men's frustrations with the apps, because I know women have quite a few frustrations with the app. Obviously, one of them being for men, like not getting matches. But what do you hear from your clients about how they feel about the apps?
Yeah, I mean, the number one frustration is they don't get matches, and the matches they do get either don't respond or don't show up on dates with them. So I think that's the biggest thing. If they were getting matches, like, okay, like some guys will like those that be like, dude, I would be happy with just like one match a week, with a girl who I actually like think is cute, and with women, it's like a lot of times they get more matches than they know what to do with, and it's like trying to find a guy that they actually like. Um, so for them, I think it's like maybe it's like an incompatibility thing. I actually don't know. I'd love to hear what what they're saying from your side. But for the guys, it's a confidence killer for a lot of them. They just sign on. They're like, okay, nobody wants me. I'm literally putting my face out to thousands of people. Not one person is swiping right, saying, hey, I'd love to go on a date with this guy.
That's heartbreaking. I mean, that is heartbreaking.
And this is happening to 50% of the male population at least, so like, when you have that, it's it's much more understandable that like, guys would be frustrated with dating for sure.
I don't think women know that stat that that's happening to men, and I think that sometimes. And listen, like I am not single. I've been in a relationship for 8 years. I didn't do too much of the dating apps. So I'm not speaking entirely from my own experience, but from my clients and women I've spoke to and women on this podcast, I think they don't realize men's experience. And that's why it's so important to have you here. I don't think they think about what it means for men on the other side, like emotionally, like confidence. I think there might be this overgeneralized idea that like men just don't want relationships or men just like want to hook up. And I don't know, this is why again your insight is really helpful because you are male and you work with men. And so just hearing this is really eye-opening.
Yeah, what I tell my clients is that like, look, dude, if you're not getting any matches, like, don't think that there's anything wrong with you. Like that's how a lot of guys are. That's how most guys are. They're not getting matches with women that they desire. Okay, so if you're there, don't think that you're any worse than the average. We just need to get you to do better. Okay, so how do we get you to do better? We need to like take better pictures, actually show you some cool stuff, have a bio written out with some thought into it, and then give it some time. So like, and then also don't only rely on the dating apps. I always recommend that guys have it as like a backup option, right? So like, use that in your back pocket, but don't make that the number one thing that you're using to meet people. All right. And then from there, you will gain confidence slowly but surely. But confidence doesn't happen overnight. And, I think the biggest reason why people don't, they only know kind of what their perspective is. Like a lot of guys assume that because women do get matches, because they do have people asking them out, they feel wanted. And for them, because that's the scarce resource of feeling wanted, um, they think that because women have it, they're happy all the time, or they must like dating is skewed towards them.
Oh my God, that's fascinating because I think women think dating is skewed towards men. And, we had John Berger on. If you look at stats, it's skewed towards men because the numbers aren't in women's favor. It's like every, two women to every one man. So I think it's interesting because I think there's so much. confusion.
Wait. What's skewed towards men?
For men, there's for every college educated man, there's two women, right? So for women, like John Berger's described this as like musical chairs. Like there's not enough men for women.
Oh, okay, okay. So this is the point that men also get upset about. So you're saying that anyone who's not college educated is not a viable option for a college educated woman.
I'm not saying that, but
That's what the stat is implying.
yeah, yes. It's research on college educated men versus college educated women, and part of in the book of what he talks about is mixed color dating, right? And women opening up their viewpoint to other men or options, right? It doesn't have to be a college educated, this type of job person. And I think, we can get in our own way with that. And I think what you said earlier about the spark, I hear that a lot, especially with my clients there. And I'd be curious to know if men look for that spark too, because I think a lot of women do. It's like, I didn't have that spark. I didn't have like, I was like, well, there's really something to a slow burn of like getting to know somebody. It doesn't have to be like an instantaneous spark. So I think in those ways, women kind of overlook, and maybe that's why some men feel invisible, like they overlook men. But I'd be curious to hear you share more about that frustration. I am not saying like you have to be with a college educated man at all. I think men.
Okay, gotcha. I think that is what it sounded like the stat implied. Look, there's a very real reason why this exists, and it's because women are more choosy about who they date, and men are less choosy about it. Um, they're less choosy because there's less of a commitment involved, like, with a sexual relationship. Potentially, if a child is involved, that's a lot more of a burden on the woman than it is for the guy. The guy can just up and run. So there's a reason, but there's a reason why this exists. It doesn't make it any easier emotionally for the guys involved. Like I'm sure most guys wouldn't do that if that happened, or who knows. But we have birth control in today's day and age. But evolution and the way our brains work doesn't care about that. So like there are real reasons for why this happens. Now to deal with it for the average guy, I say you just got to really like step up. Like I think this is just my personal opinion. I think at the beginning, dating is harder in terms of like what guys have to do, and then for women, it's more about like they don't have the issue of like finding guys that want to date them. It's like finding guys that they want. Because you asked the question about, do men say that they don't feel the spark? I really don't get that much of guys saying that. They'll go on a date with someone who they're like maybe think is kind of cute, but they want someone who they think is like hot, and then they'll be like, yeah, she was all right, but like I kind of want someone who I'm more attracted to, and like that'll be what I'll get, but that's only for like a top percentage of guys. So the reason why everyone thinks that dating is skewed is because they tend to hyper focus on like the top 10% of people in the dating market, and yeah, I mean, if you look at a guy who's, rich and good looking and, is a lot like a big social circle, like, yeah, I mean, he's probably having a great time, but most guys aren't that guy, but we hyper focus on them. And then we just assume that every guy's kind of living that life. And that's absolutely not true. Same with guys look at, some of the most beautiful women out there, that have, bunch of rich dudes sliding into their DMs or whatever, or they, getting asked out all the time. And that's not every woman's experience.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why this is so important, because to shed some light on what's happening, for on both sides of things. And one of the things I wanted to ask you now that I'm thinking about like John Berger and his books, he wrote another book called Make Your Move, and it talked about the concept of women being more bold. And so when you work with men that maybe you're working on their confidence, or they're the ones that feel invisible, or I mean, I guess anyone you work with, do you think that men appreciate women that are more bold in dating? Might be the one that asks for the second date, or might be the one that leads with vulnerability, or is more clear on what they want. Do you think men want that, appreciate that?
Sure, sure. I absolutely think they would. Okay. And I would love to see more of my clients have women making the first move. Um, it doesn't usually work from what I've seen. And this is I'm coming from someone who my sister is about to marry a guy who she made the first move on. But I'm saying with my clients, I haven't seen it work that much. So um, the reason why is because I find that when women are making the first move, they'll usually see a guy who they think is really attractive, and then they'll be like, "Oh, I feel compelled." But it wouldn't have as like for the guy who isn't getting a lot of female attention, that would mean so much to him if she did that. But the guy who she's looking at, who like I'm gonna make the first move on, he's like he's probably already got a girl he's dating, or he's got three women that he's like thinking about which one am I gonna pick, like, and she makes the move on him, and it's not as appreciated as much as it would be for a guy who isn't getting that kind of thing.
Ooh, that's interesting too. That, yeah.
Whenever you ask men, though, they all it's unanimous. They all unanimously say they love women to be more bold.
Yeah, I mean, and I think if you were to ask women, they have this expectation again, like I'm trying not to generalize here, but I'm just going off like, things I've heard through my work and friends, et cetera. Um, there is still this desire for men to make the move and to men show their interest first before they're comfortable showing their interest. And there's this real fear, and there's a lot of these narratives around like, well, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to come across too needy, and I don't want to come across like, too much. So they play, like, we talk a lot about like the cool girl image, and so they're not inclined to be more bold, and they're waiting for the guy to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I generally seen that too. I always encourage my clients to not wait, like to if they because like I think that's a sign of a masculine, confident guy, and like there's a reason why confidence is attractive is because like if he has the confidence to walk up and say hi to me and ask me out and risk rejection, then he probably has the confidence to do that in his career, which that's what it takes to be successful. Like if you want to be a successful person in your business life, like, and you're afraid of rejection, you don't want to experience any rejection, like good luck, because like rejection is going to happen to you, thousands of times. And if you're not willing to just walk up and talk to a girl that you find attractive, like, come on, man, like what's the worst that could happen with that? So I think there's reasons for it. What I will say is that I do think that it's fine for women to like ask a guy out. So I'll give my sister as an example. The reason why it worked for her, I think, is because number one, she picked a guy who is a super introvert. He was a very good-looking guy, but like a total. He doesn't go outside very much. He's like he likes to keep to himself. He's also an actor as well too. So he's very comfortable in his own circles, but like never branched out. So she kind of like made the move on him first, but then afterwards he kind of took the lead, right? And I think if the woman takes maybe the initial step and just like maybe says, "Hey, I think you're cute" or whatever, if he takes the lead after that, plans the day, continues to ask her out, I think it does work. But if the woman's leading the entire time, where she's always making plans and he's just kind of like sitting there, I've never really seen that work. And I find that the women that I've talked to, at least my female friends, and the research that I've seen is that like she'll actually lose attraction for him, or maybe she'll feel unattractive or unappealing, and it doesn't really work that well. I mean, like the way I relate it to is like, have you ever danced salsa or ballroom, any types of dances like that, country swing?
I love to dance, but not like I've done.
Not partner dancing.
No, I can't say that I'm well versed in that. No.
Okay, well, who leads when it comes to partner dancing?
Rob would lead. Yeah. My partner is Rob.
Yeah, yeah. The guy always leads in partner dancing, and these dances have been around for a long time. I don't know any partner dance on the planet where the woman leads, and I think that that's because that's kind of how the dance of men and women has gone, where it's like the guy leads and the woman decides if she's going to follow him, and she's looking for someone who she wants to follow, and I think that dynamic tends to work very well. I've seen other relationships where maybe. The woman is a little bit more, she's got a little bit more masculine energy to herself, like she's like the go-getter, she's she makes more she's much more career oriented, and he's kind of like the stay at home dad. I've seen some relationships like that work, but I still think that there are times where the guy leads, and I think it happens when into more intimate contexts. But mostly, I've seen when the guy takes the lead. But I think it's fine if the woman wants to like just give him make it a little easier for him to start the leading process.
Yeah, I always, yeah, I have many thoughts. And I am thinking back to our first conversation. I want to circle back to something that we talked about that time. But I think that sometimes we lose sight of what men go through and what's happening on their side and what their experience is. And, trying to remember, yes, maybe there's this expectation to lead or this attraction to a man that leads, but men also come with their own, and you're working with men like this, right? They come with their own fears and insecurities. So I always try to encourage women to remember, there's another human on the side of this equation with fears and insecurities of their own. So I think, yeah, I like how you said maybe make it a little bit easier for them, but making it easier for, both sides. I think sometimes it gets very complicated because people are not vulnerable or open, or there's all these fears and insecurities. So I like what you said of making it, I wish it would be easier for everybody. But I wanted to circle back because I loved our initial conversation. I had asked you what men are looking for, and I want to talk about that here because I thought it was really relevant and really helpful. And another thing that you said is like it's important to let men be men. So I do want to talk about that. So if you can share here with our guests what you shared with me, like the things that men are looking for in a woman.
Sure. Yeah, I think most men, when they rank the qualities, they've done tests in evolutionary psychology to see kind of what traits men are looking for. Yes, men are looking. Beauty is one of them. They do look for that, but they're also looking for other traits as well too. They're looking for kindness. They're looking for caring. They're looking for a nurturing side. They really love femininity. There's a huge amount of power in being feminine. My girlfriend, she has her own business. She's a very successful woman, but she knows how to be feminine and she knows how to be a woman around me. And I'll tell you what, if I had a choice whether she was going to be a business owner or she was going to have those qualities, I had to pick one. The feminine qualities win all day because that's the type of stuff that draws us together, right? And so when I hear a lot of successful women talk about like, well, like why can't I get a great guy or I'm such a catch, I'm talking about, well, what are you actually gonna provide for them? Like, well, I have my own business, I'm successful, I'm hot, and I'm like, okay, the hot part, all right, yeah, but like, what about your business is going to be useful for him, or what about your career is going to be useful for him? Are you going to spend all your money on him? Well, no. Okay, so you still want him to take you out on dates, spend money on the dates, and um, so like, what benefit is he getting from the you being successful and career oriented? Like, how is that going to make him feel when he's around you? You see, a lot of guys, for them to feel good, they need to have something of their own, and then when they come back, they want peace. They want a sense of tranquility. They want someone who's going to be there for them, and doesn't honestly doesn't give them that many problems. Like they want someone like that who they feel good around. A relationship. When it comes to all of that stuff, like you really got to pay attention to, because and men are horrible at vocalizing this too.
Yeah, there needs to some work there.
Yeah. Because at the beginning stage, that's not really what a guy's thinking about. But when it gets to when they start hanging out more and that sort of stuff, like they'll usually go for the one who's a bit easier. And it's not like, yeah, having a high powered career, I think is great, but I find that women with a high powered career, they're gone a lot, they're busy, or maybe they come back from work and they're really stressed out, and then the guy comes back, and two stressed people coming together is yeah, it can cause some friction too. And I think a lot of career oriented women have a lot of trouble stepping into their femininity. I think as a culture and as a society, we really prize masculine traits, and I think that that's a huge problem because femininity is just as important. I mean, that's what takes a kid from that's what makes him a good person when he gets older is a nurturing, kind person in their life. It's not, oh yeah, my mom was a top executive at Google. That's is that going to matter to the child?
Yeah, I hear hearing everything you're saying. I'm thinking about our audience and the women. A lot of women fall in that category, especially women that find themselves single in their 30s, egg freezing. We had Marsha Inborn on, and she did a study of 150 women that froze their eggs. 86% of them single, all of them super super successful. So I hear exactly what you're saying, but I'm also thinking about these women and maybe the frustration of hearing that, like, these are the things this is part of who I am. These are the things, these accomplishments I'm really proud of.
I'm not asking them to stop being successful. I think that's the issue. If this is, let me speak to the audience real quick. If anyone's listening to this and they're getting really triggered, this is super important for you, because what it's telling you is that, like, that's why it's being hard for you to make this change. Because if you're hearing this and you're like, oh, well, this guy's telling me to not be successful, I just have to be, a boring housewife to be, to get a guy. That's not what I'm saying at all. You can be successful and have those feminine qualities. I just gave the example of my girlfriend, who I've been with for years, who runs her own hair salon. She's one of the top hairstylists in Texas. She has no problem being feminine around me. Absolutely none. And that's why, I love her so much, is because she is able to do both. There's no rule, there's nothing that says that you can't be really high powered and successful in your career and come home and step into your femininity and learn to be that way around your man, and he'll step into his masculinity and you'll like him even more. Okay, but the issue is the transition. Okay, so if you've been being, do this, do that, get this done, do that all day, then you come home and you have to sit into this caring position. It's tough. It's tough for a lot of people, and I think that transition can be a little bit of a challenge. So, and that's not to say that you can't come back and have complaints about work or anything, but I think it's just learning to stop being in control when you come back. I think that's the tough part.
Yeah, and you and I talked about this too. That transition is hard, especially when, in order to be successful in these type of worlds, like corporate worlds, business worlds, like, it does require that masculine energy. So if you're in that space all day long, in order to be successful, it is hard to come home and like be more feminine. I think also sometimes, I don't know, I think it's, we're doers, we get things done quickly. I'll speak for myself. Sometimes it's like, I want things done. I want things done quickly. And Rob moves at a different pace sometimes. And so it's like me trying to like remembering to step back and just let him lead, let him do it at his own pace. But sometimes, yeah, I guess it is letting go of that control of like,
Do you have a specific example? I feel like you're thinking of a specific example.
oh, I'll give you a specific example. We moved into a new house not too long ago, and like he's very busy. We're both very busy. We're parents and both work full time. And I had stuff that I wanted like hung and done around the house, and it sat there for a little bit. And so finally, I called somebody else. Like I called the service to come put the stuff up, and he was not happy about that. But I was like, I wanted it done, and I was waiting for you to do it. And he's like, you know, I didn't like that. I didn't like that someone else, came in here. And
What about it did he not like that you got something done without consulting him, or did he not like that you made some adjustment with the house? Like, what about it?
no, but that some other person came in and did it and he could do it. And that I didn't, I wanted it done, and it wasn't, our timelines were different.
Hmm. The home is typically something that the feminine is kind of like, she keeps the home. Well, the guy is usually the one, you know, going out and coming back.
And I wanted get the hammer out, get the level out, get the ladder out like that. And I was impatient and wanted it done. So I guess that's the best example off the top of my head.
Yeah, okay. I could see both points. That's an interesting one, because when it's like an issue with the house, like, with me, and I've blatantly said this to my girlfriend before. I'm just like, literally, I will just have literally a mattress on the floor if it wasn't for women in my life. Like, and I would what?
Rob says the same thing. He's like, I'd have one fork, I'd have one knife, I'd have one spoon, one plate. That's it. Like, Yeah, it's that's yeah. He says the same things.
So like if it's something to do with the house, I just kind of like just I'm like, babe, just tell me what to do. Like I don't know what to do. She maybe get a bed frame, she maybe get all the stuff. So like my room looks nicer now. So I think with the home, the feminine is usually pretty good at taking care of that. I think he was more angered because it sounds like he was more frustrated because somebody else did it that he felt like he was capable of doing. But I also feel like he should have let you kind of handle that because maybe that's just him. Maybe that's something that he needs to work on too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I love the insight about, what men are looking for and maybe what women are coming to the table with if they're not stepping out of the masculinity. And I think there is like something at conflict there. And then there's this frustration for women of like, I am so great. I am so successful. And a narrative that develops, and I'd be curious to your thought on this narrative, is this intimidation factor, right? Like I can't find anyone because men are intimidated by my success. So I'm curious what you would say to that.
Yeah, so both sides have this, and they both blame the other side. But I find also too, I mean, data shows this. If you're a successful woman, you do not want to date a guy who's significantly poorer than you. I mean, they find it very tough to be attracted to those kinds of men. So the pool of men that they're actually into is smaller. Okay, so and if you're dating someone who is very successful, who is very pretty, yes, the pool of men that she is going for, he knows is going to be smaller. So he's intimidated. He's like, is this, like, am I going to be in that pool of, men that she finds attractive? And he instinctively knows this. Both sides they're not off. Like they're both right, but they're both right from their perspective. So like he has a little bit of a right to feel, some men have a little bit of right to feel uncomfortable. Now, the other side of the coin is like, well, if he is intimidated, maybe he's not the right person for her. Maybe he needs to step up a little bit. So it's a little bit of that. But then there's the other side that we talked about, I think, when we first chatted, which is okay. So let's say he is a guy who is in an economic bracket that she'd be fine with, maybe around the same or higher. And, he is a guy who feels confident, dating a woman who looks like her or, has the same kind of drive that she does. Okay, then why wouldn't it work out? Because I still find that sometimes it can be a challenge for it to work out. And I think the reason why is because he feels like he's going to have to he's not going to be able to get those feminine qualities with her, and he would be able to get them from somebody who maybe is who's a little less successful, who's going to be happy to do those feminine things for him. And honestly, there's going to be some people who get offended by this, but like men still like a woman who can cook, and I know some women who are fiercely against that.
Listen, I love this. I love this conversation, and I think you're right in saying some people are not going to love it or appreciate, but I think that that's a cue to kind of look a little deeper of like, why is this triggering you or why is this upsetting you? So I think it is really valuable, and when we say we want male voices, we mean it, and that might mean hearing some things that we don't expect, hearing some things we might be hard to hear, but I think ultimately it could be helpful. I'm wondering, could you give some examples to our ladies out there of like feminine qualities? I know you said nurturing, but are there like specific examples that come to mind for you, that are attractive, that are feminine, that men are drawn to? Maybe it'd be helpful for some women to have certain things in mind to help them shift out of that masculine energy they bring to work or outside, life to dating, to relationships.
Sure, sure. Okay, so like an easiest way to do this is like, what do most men look for? So I find, and this is not, again, these are just generalizations that in specific cases, obviously they can change, but men usually want respect, and women usually, I think women care about respect too, but they want love. And I think if you asked most men, they would choose respect over love. Okay, so what does respect look like? Respect looks like, I think in the instance with your situation with Rob, he took it as a slight bit of disrespect that you didn't trust that he could do something.
Yes. Okay, love, yeah.
So the first thing that you can give him is a sign of respect, like trust that he can do certain things. And by the way, I'm not saying that you're wrong for doing what you did. I'd have it really depends on the situation. I'm just saying that's how he interpreted it. You know, that's how he interpreted it. So, most men care about respect, and respect. I think you can use words of affirmation. I think that usually helps, like letting him know, like, hey, babe, like just want you to know, like, I think what you're doing is really great, or like that's amazing that you're doing X, Y, Z. Men don't really hear that much from women that they're dating because a lot of times women don't even know what they do. Like if a guy works in finance, there's not very many conversations they're going to be having about him, moving some money around or whatever. So the first thing is respect. Showing respect and then making it just his day easier. So like if he comes home and he like has his like some things disorganized in his room and he's like stepping over them to try and get to his bed, it's like you can maybe clear it away from him or something like that so he can get to his bed a little bit easier, just making their life a little bit easier. The thing is, I do these things for my girlfriend as well too. If I notice that her shoulder hurts, because she does hair all day, she cuts hair all day, so it hurts here, I'll give her a massage. I'll give her a massage there. That would be something that I think, you know, and she does the same for me too, and I really appreciate it. That would be an example of a nurturing, caring quality. If he wants to talk, he can talk. Um, but sometimes men they like to deal with stuff internally, and so they might not be super open to talking. But just a little bit of that, I think can help.
Yeah, and I love I think what you said too is so important. I'm speaking from like a woman's lens. I think what's important is the reciprocity of that. And I think some frustrations with women and is that we feel like we do a lot. And so I think this conversation is amazing, but I think it's gonna be conversation starters for sure, because I think women sometimes feel like I do so much. Now I have to clean up his room, or now I have to do these things. And I completely hear like the value in all those things. I'm just speaking from the lens of women and some of their frustration.
So I understand correctly, what kinds of things do they feel like they do that on top of that cleaning the room is too much?
I think they feel like, and you mentioned this too, and I agree with that, like men internalize a lot. So I think they feel like they carry the emotional load, the mental load, they initiate the conversations or the communication. I think they feel burdened with a lot of responsibility. Um, and then, well, and I'll say, like, I know I had a couple of my therapists that work on my practice on, and they read the book by John Berger, the Make Your Move book, about, and I read it in a very different way. Like, I think it's great to be assertive and communicate and be clear. Like, I think women should state what they want and go for it. But they read it very differently. Like, well, men aren't going to do the work, so you have to do this too. And so they were really frustrated with, okay, now we have this other burden of responsibility put on us because men are not going to do it.
Okay. So they feel like the burden is they're having to, so initiating conversations and then keeping a mental load of all the stuff that's like going on. Okay. And that is in addition to cooking and cleaning, that's too much. In addition to working on their career as well too. Okay, cool. The guy has no idea that she's carrying that much weight in her mind. He has no clue. He just sees, he just comes home and sees her watching TV or something like that. And then when she's like, I do so much, and she's carrying all that stuff in her head and initiating conversations that if they went or didn't go, he would probably be fine with. He just kind of wants to, men like to have women in their presence, but, like to give full attention. That's not something that they really usually think about. I think it's beneficial that they do that. But it's not something that they readily think about. That's going on in their head, and he has no clue that she's doing all of that for him.
So it would be helpful if women were clear on that.
Yeah, so like sometimes you have to, sometimes I have to, like when you do things at work or in general, sometimes if it goes unnoticed and you don't tell people about it, sometimes people will just take it for granted.
That's a really great point. I guess one other thing, I could have you here for hours. I guess I'm going to have you back if you're open to that because I have so many more questions. But a lot of the narratives that come up for our demographic and our audience and the women that we have had on is this idea of like, it's called quiet the clock because there is this like ticking clock there, especially when you get to a certain age, your biological clock, this idea you're running out of time, you're behind, maybe you're single, you're not a mom yet. And that carries so much weight for women. I'm wondering how much men know that, especially the fertility biological piece, right? So when women go into dating, and this is hopefully we're trying to help women, not feel the weight or the burden of these clocks or these timelines, there's all this other pressure on them as they show up in the dating world. And I'm wondering how much men know that.
They know. All men are aware of like women's biological clocks. I think men are a little bit harsh. You see so many like about the red pill. You know what that is?
No, no.
Oh, it's this whole like it's kind of like a men's um, community, but it's about dating, and it's very very harsh on women. They like there's like forums where they talk about how that's like if she's over 30 and she's trying to have kids, like it's really bad. It's not bad. Like I know plenty of people who have had kids after 40. I just talked to a woman. This is so crazy. This is gonna be great for your listeners. I was at a self-development event, and I talked to a woman who was 50 and she just had a kid, and she looked great.
I just had a guest on that told me this. It's some very similar story that she had a colleague of hers who unfortunately lost a son, and she was 50, and she's like, "I'm not being done being a mom," and she's like, "Okay," and then she has another kid.
Good for her. Yeah. I mean, and the kid was healthy too. It's like I definitely think that the men are very aware of women's biological clock, and especially the people who pay attention online. Maybe they don't. If they don't show it, then I guess they just don't pay attention to anything. But like most men that I talk to who are in my programs and my friends, they're all extremely aware of it. Maybe a little too prejudiced against women for it, because I know women who are like, like I said, I just like she looked great. The child looked healthy. 50 years old, like me 5 years ago would have never even thought that was possible. But now my mind is opening to it. And I even asked her, I was like, like, what's your secret? How did you, how did you do it? She's like, I just didn't listen to whatever anybody was telling me. I really believed that I was going to have another kid, and I did. So like, I'm sure even doctors might even be telling women that like they can't do it, but I've seen doctors tell women they can't do it, and they end up having a kid. Like my girlfriend especially, she has this might be just some health problems that makes her think that she may never be able to have kids, and like doctors have told her that she's like a huge risk for it. But I think she wanted to, she absolutely could.
Yeah. Well, tell her to listen to the podcast because we have so many great doctors and nutritionists out here. Or she's happy to reach out to me. Honestly, like I'm here to help and share and make anybody's journey easier. But yeah, I mean, anything is possible.
Good. Yeah, but to answer your question, men are very very aware.
That's reassuring to know. So many amazing insights. I hate to have to wrap up. I'd love to have you back on here if you're open to that.
I'm super open to it. Yeah, I always enjoy talking to you, Beth.
Oh, this is cool. This is great. I mean, you gave so many great insights. Maybe one last thing you can leave our audience with, like what do men want women to know?
Yeah, I think men want women to know that like they love it when they are women. They love it when they are women, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think women have been taught when they were brought up in school that like to be successful or to be respected or to be important in today's society, they have to do whatever the men have done historically. And I don't care what like I've met women who are NASA engineers. I've met women who are, like the most like great athletes. I've met the most incredible women. I've met women like who are billionaires. I don't respect any other women more than I respect my mom.
Oh, I love that. As a boy mom, I love that. I love that.
So, there's a huge amount of power to it, and I think the way we've been brought up has been, whatever whoever we read in the textbook is like, okay, this must be an important person, but yeah, you couldn't tell me that anyone's more important than my mother. So,
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody where they can find you, maybe some men that could possibly work with you. I'm sure you're very busy. But please share with everybody where they can find you.
sure, yeah. If you want to find me, you can find me on YouTube at the Single Guy. I am not the Single Guy, obviously. That is to my audience, or a dot single guy. A.single.guy on Instagram. So A.single.guy on Instagram, the Single Guy on YouTube. Either one of those work.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lloyd. This was really amazing and incredible, and it's going to be so helpful for our audience. And I'm excited to get it out there because I'm excited to see what people say about it.
Yeah, me too, Beth. Thanks for having me on. I'd love to come back.
Oh, yeah, I have to have you back for sure, for sure. If you like the episodes that you're hearing and you want to hear more, please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more incredible stories and tools.
When I froze my eggs at 37, I felt alone, I felt unsure, I felt confused and uncertain. And when you're considering such a big decision, feeling those ways do not feel good. So we have created a step-by-step guide to egg freezing so no one else has to feel that way. If you are considering egg freezing, if you're curious about what the process looks like or what you should be thinking about, then this guide is for you. We were really thoughtful in how we put it together. I think it's a great guide. I think it's really comprehensive and covers a lot of the things to be thinking about, to be considering, and maybe some things you didn't even realize you should be thinking about or considering. The goal is to not have anyone feel alone in this journey. So if you're thinking about this decision, sign up through our website, quiettheclock.com, and make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at quiettheclockpod. This is a very big decision, so I don't want anyone to feel alone in it. So if you're thinking about it, grab this guide, and you can also DM me with any questions. I'm here to support you through this decision and this journey.